greatest sports debate show on the internet.
Jalen Carter does not dive for his knee.
He grabbed his knee, though, which was
a dirty play. That was a football play.
You don't get to talk anymore.
Football play.
You don't get to talk anymore, sir.
Championship rings, starring Brandon Lewis.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions, and welcome to Championship Rings.
And Josh Unger.
Buddy. So, who was right about the Indiana Pacers making it to the conference finals?
Well, let's see. Jalen Brunson gets hurt, and Alex Burke gets hurt, and Mitchell Robinson gets hurt, and Josh Hart gets hurt. You have the easiest road to the Eastern Conference Finals this side of the Boston Celtics. So, were you right, or was it the NBA gods saying, let Josh Unger be the only person in the world to pick the Indiana Pacers?
Nope, I was right from the beginning.
Begin now.
Those damn Indiana Pacers, we're still talking about them, and welcome to Championship Rings on this Tuesday, episode 83. Brandon Lewis, host of Brandon's World. Josh Unger to the max, the host of the Sports Room Talk Show. Josh, let's not waste any time. Game 5 of the NBA Finals went down last night.
Yep, and Jalen Williams showed up as how do I say this? If SGA is Michael Jordan, then Jalen Williams was Scottie Pippen last night. I'm not trying to say that SGA is the second coming of Michael Jordan. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm just saying in terms of them being a dynamic duo, like SGA would be Batman and Jalen Williams would be the Robin, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Last night, it did kind of feel like that. Not so much throughout the series. I mean, I think this talk that Jalen Williams could be Finals MVP is ridiculous. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to win Finals MVP. He's been the best player on the court. Even last night, I thought, I know he was close to a double-double. I believe he had 9 assists, about 30 points. Just a typical SGA game. But the crazy thing about last night was I had made a significant wager, the most significant wager I've ever made in my life on the Oklahoma City Thunder to cover 9.5, because I really felt like last night the Thunder were just going to cakewalk through this game. And it did feel like that they were going to cakewalk through this game. And then all of a sudden, even without that so-called superstar, Tyrese Halliburton.
Let's just quelch this right now. He is not a superstar. I've heard all the arguments about, because he hits all these clutch shots. Don't remind me about game 2. I'm still not over it. But because he hits all these clutch shots and he's gone 5 for 5 in late game situations, that makes him a superstar. No, it does not. Tyrese Halliburton, he is a very good player at times. At times, he can be a great player, but he is not the kind of guy where you can give him the ball and say, take us there.
Well, I would word it differently. I would say he's the type of guy you can depend on to make the last shot of the game, obviously. He's not the type of guy that you can bank on him having 25 to 30 points a night. That's not his game. Where SGA, I think the thing that makes SGA at worst a top 2-3 player in this league right now, especially for these finals, is his ability to score 25 to 30 a game. His ability to, whether you want to call him a free throw merchant or not, he draws fouls. He gives the ball up. He makes winning plays. And as I mentioned last week on Championship Rings, the Oklahoma City Thunder have won 68 regular season games. They have now won 15 postseason games. And it's 83 wins that they have had. They have lost a grand total of 14 regular season games and 6 postseason games, which means they have lost a total of 20 games, which means for 103 games this season, they are 83-20. That would put them as historically the third best team of all time behind the 1995-1996 Chicago Bulls and, of course, the 2015-2016 Golden State Warriors. So, no, in my opinion, the Indiana Pacers had no shot to win this series. Nothing outside of Game 1 has surprised me, really. Even at Game 3, there was a lot of people picking Oklahoma City. I thought that was the game Indiana would win at home relatively comfortably. I thought the Thunder would win a close one in Game 4. And again, last night was the strangest game ever because out of all people, TJ McConnell was probably the best player on the Indiana Pacers last night, and the Pacers may have the greatest bench in the history of the NBA because what team would even be remotely in this game when their best player doesn't even make a field goal and they're within 2 in the fourth quarter? And I'm going, oh no, here we go again. It felt like Game 1 all over again.
Let me comment on that because Rick Carlisle made a huge mistake in that game last night. I think you know what I'm referring to here. You know Tyrese Halliburton is compromised. TJ McConnell is playing extremely well for you. You are getting back into the game, and you put Tyrese Halliburton back in the game?
Are you talking about in the fourth quarter, right when they cut it to 2? Siakam hit that 3. OKC calls timeout. Yeah, no, I thought the same thing. To be honest with you, and there was discussion today about, I don't know if you could really do that because he is your best player. Again, not last night. If I was Indiana personally, I would have not played Halliburton one more minute the rest of the game.
Yeah, I would agree with you because I'll pull up the tweet right now, actually. I believe Shams Charania tweeted he has a
calf strain, which is very dangerous. He's going to get an MRI on it. Listen, he's a competitor. He said so himself. He's probably going to play tomorrow night, or Thursday night, excuse me. But I will warn Pacers fans of this. There is a precedent for a guy having a calf strain and coming back too early and tearing his Achilles in an NBA Finals game.
We will get to him in another segment. Don't you worry.
It's known as Kevin Durant, who we will talk about, and it happened in 2019. And by the way, for the record, I don't care what you Pacers fans say. Even if Halliburton wins, I will die on this sword. For the 9th consecutive year, we will not get a Game 7. This thing is over on Thursday. The Oklahoma City Thunder are going to win this game. The Indiana Pacers are going to throw their punch the way they did in Game 4 early. OKC will withstand the punch. They will play better in the second half, and we will crown an NBA champion on Thursday. And no, Indiana, you do not have a shot in hell to win this series. You never did. And by the way, we're going to get to this here in a minute. The Orlando Magic made a trade because they literally feel like you are a fluke and they can beat you. Yeah, and that's how everybody feels around this league because nobody has taken this Indiana Pacer road legitimately. Nobody thinks this team is a legitimate championship contender. Even if they do somehow come back and win these next 2 games and have the most miracle championship run of all time, I am here. I will put it on the line right here, right now. The Indiana Pacers will not be back in the NBA Finals next year.
And let me just say this. For all you NBA fans out there, whether you're a talking head on ESPN, Fox Sports 1, or you're just a general NBA fan, whatever, if the Oklahoma City Thunder win this championship on Thursday, it is their first one in franchise history. Do not count it as their second one because they won a championship back in 1979 in Seattle.
I don't think anybody does. I don't think anybody does.
Bullshit. Let's remove the Seattle Supersonics from the equation. The Oklahoma City Thunder are their own team.
Who counts the Sonics? I know obviously that they were there, but as far as I know, does the NBA count the Sonics as Thunder records? I thought that was like disputed or something.
As far as I know, the NBA does count the Sonics.
Because I haven't heard that conversation at all. Everything I heard is OKC's about to win their first title in franchise history. Which, again, as I said 2 weeks ago right here on Championship Rings, Josh, if they do indeed complete this season the way we think they do, the Thunder will have the 3rd best regular season record in the history of the NBA. They will have a player in Shea Gilgeous-Alexander who will become the first player since Michael Jordan to be a guard to lead the league in scoring during the regular season, win Finals MVP, win regular season MVP, and of course host the Larry O'Brien Trophy. It will be, I don't care what you people want to say, the facts are the facts. It's one of the most historic seasons in the history of the NBA.
I would even say it's one of the greatest seasons in NBA history. But Mark Dagnall, the head coach of the Thunder, why did you go away from the double big lineup in games 1, 2, and 3? Oh, no, I want to start Cason Wallace. But why? Like, the double big lineup of Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren had been working for you all regular season, all through the postseason, and then you get to game 1 against the Pacers, and you're like, nah, I want to start Cason Wallace and take Isaiah Hartenstein out.
And I agree with you, and I think the right move was to go back to Hartenstein in game 4. But I do want to point this out, that in fairness, it did kind of work. It's not like it was a disaster. They were up by 15 and forced 20 Indiana turnovers in the first half, and a lot of that was Wallace getting the steals and being disruptive on defense. So it's not like it didn't work.
I understand that, but, like, you don't want to psych yourself out. Like, you haven't even played a minute of the series, and you're already making a lineup change. What does that say about Indiana, right? Like,
yeah, it's strange. And again, the thing is, this is Dagnall's obviously first big coaching spot. But again, as I've talked about numerous times over the last couple of weeks, as we've seen in the NBA over these past few weeks, the NBA doesn't value coaching anymore. So it's a players' league. And, you know, let's just face it. The game's been better than I think we all thought. The ratings have not showcased that. And in 4 or 5 years, this NBA Finals is going to be remembered as, hey, do you remember that one Pacer team that had a miracle run that made every shot in the world that got to the finals? And they went up against the Thunder team, and it will depend on what the Thunder do 2-3 years down the road that will dictate what history will say about the 2024-2025 Thunder. Because either history will say, oh, it's one of the greatest seasons ever. It's one of the greatest, one-off seasons ever, kind of like Boston and Denver from the last couple of years. Or it will be viewed as the 2015 Warriors start of a dynasty season.
Yes. By the way, I think the NBA actually heard everybody complaining, because for the first time since the 2013 NBA Finals, which was one of the greatest finals I've ever seen between the San Antonio Spurs and the Miami Heat, they actually showed player introductions last night. Like, we talked about this last week. That's part of what makes the NBA Finals so special, is they show the player introductions. Back in the early 2000s, they had that giant Larry O'Brien trophy on the court. And it's like, oh, this isn't just a regular playoff game. Think about this. And I'm writing an article about this on Voltage Live. It'll be posted later in the month.
By the end of June, yes.
Yes. But when you watched the national championship game between the Florida Gators and the Houston Cougars in early April, you knew it was a massive game because it was played on that on a special Final Four court. It
was in a stadium.
Yes, and they showed player introductions, and they had all this pomp and circumstance. But when you watch the NBA Finals, it's like, wait, is this the NBA Finals, or is this just a second-round matchup?
Well, no, I said last week, if you recall, I said if you told someone who was in a coma, if they woke up, that they would think it was just a random Thursday night game in January. I mean, it was nothing different. And I do want to say this real quick. So after Sham Charania put out the tweet that the Thunder Pacers were going to get player introductions, I went to the same platform known as X, and I asked its AI platform, Gronk, if Adam Silver has a burner account where he just listens to NBA Twitter. And it was a very fascinating response. Gronk wrote back, Adam Silver said in 2017 he has a secret Twitter account to follow NBA discussions. So, what do you know? NBA Twitter, you can bully Adam Silver into doing almost anything.
Yes. Like, it's gotten to the point where they're even, instead of those stupid Larry O'Brien trophies, it actually says the finals. But wait, that's not actually on the court. That's computer generated.
Yeah, it's a bad one. I didn't like it when they first started it. A couple of years ago, it looked more real than it does now. You know, a couple of years ago, you couldn't really tell, besides the fact that they would move around the paint from one side of the floor to the other every quarter. Now it's like clearly because of the way they stretch it and things like that. I do wonder if the NBA is listening and if they're going to make a lot of big changes as part of their new media rights deal next year. Obviously, ABC still has exclusive control of the finals. But, you know, we'll see if the finals intensifies. I know, you know, game 4, which crazy enough was the highest rated game so far in the series, had record low ratings for a game 4. But, again, it's not like there's not stars in these finals. It's that the NBA has done a terrible job of marketing them, excuse me.
Yes. And it's also the fact that, like, you have two small market teams. It's kind of the same problem the NBA had during the 2021 NBA Finals when it was Milwaukee and Phoenix. Like, I know you had Giannis Antetokounmpo in that series, but overall, like, Milwaukee and Phoenix are two of the smaller markets in the NBA. It's the same thing here. Indiana and Oklahoma City, I think, are like 21st and 25th in terms of market size, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you mentioned Phoenix. Let's talk about it. Kevin Durant, he has been rumored now for the last couple of weeks to be on the move. You know, Matt Ishbia, the new Suns owner, wants to be very hands-on with the organization. It sounds like Durant does have a few teams that he would prefer to go to, though the Suns do not have to oblige to that request. Josh, I'm going to throw something out there that nobody in the sports media world has mentioned.
Okay.
You know who should trade for Kevin Durant?
The Toronto Raptors.
No.
The Washington Wizards.
The team that is currently down 3-2 in the NBA Finals.
The Indiana Pacers?
The Indiana Pacers should trade Pascal Siakam for Kevin Durant. Here's why. Tyrese Halliburton is a playmaking point guard. It is very hard for you to win a championship. Go back in history. Outside of Magic Johnson, who, you know, when he won his first couple of championships, obviously he wasn't the number one guy. He had Kareem. And then in the second iteration, when it was Magic leading the show, he was still scoring, even though he got those high assists. It's very hard to have a Jason Kidd or a Steve Nash type point guard, which is what Halliburton is, a true point guard, lead your team in scoring and assist and win a championship. SGA is not the Halliburton type. He's more of a shoot first, score first point guard, where again, Halliburton is more pass first. I can make a case for the Indiana Pacers, and I have not thrown this in the trade machine yet, so I don't know how the money would be. I know Miles Turner is on an expiring contract. But let's say, for the sake of argument, you trade Pascal Siakam for Kevin Durant straight up. What this will give you is Tyrese Halliburton is still the leader of your team. Kevin Durant is not the leader. Kevin Durant will be asked to go get a bucket. Pascal Siakam, as great as he is down low, as good as he is that can shoot the three, he cannot create his own shot. Kevin Durant can. And when Halliburton is not getting going, what are the Indiana Pacers missing? A second guy who can create his own shot. that is Kevin Durant. And I think in a weak East, where we're about to talk about what the Magic did, we're going to talk about what the Cavs may or may not do. We're going to talk about what the Knicks may or may not do, and it sounds like may not do. I actually think, I can't believe nobody's bringing this up, I think Kevin Durant is a perfect fit for Indiana.
It's an interesting proposition that I hadn't even thought about. It could work, but I don't know if that's the... I hate to say this because it is Kevin Durant and the Pacers are in the finals, but I don't know if that's the type of team Durant wants to go to. So check this out.
What do you mean? Are you saying he doesn't want to go to a winner? Are you saying he just wants to go hoop? Because even if, I mean, let's face it, Indiana would be a better situation than Miami, who's on his list. You know,
Yes.
I know it's cold weather. I get it. And maybe that's part of it. That's why San Antonio and Houston are on the list as well. But like, my argument with Houston is he's still the number one. Unless Sengun grows and becomes that guy, or Ahmed Thompson, which I think is still going to take time. Which I would think Jalen Green would be a part of the trade package. You know, unless it's San Antonio, who I like Wemby, but it's going to be a lot harder to win in the West, so I think they could certainly be contenders. My point is, the Pacers, we know, are ready to win now. And you get Rick Carlisle, who's a very good offensive coach. They don't play very much defense anyway, so you're not missing that much when it comes to Siakam and Durant on defense. Like, I don't know. I kind of like it about the Pacers, to be honest with you.
It's not a bad... I'll say it like this. It's not bad. It could work because the Pacers have basically said, Tyrese Halliburton, this is your team. So all Durant would have to go do is hoop. And he's shown that he doesn't really want the spotlight anymore. Which is why,
as I've said numerous times, and I will fight back with anybody on this. In Brooklyn and now in Phoenix, both situations, Kevin Durant was not the problem. In Brooklyn, he was dealing with James Harden basically at the end, trying to get fat and get out of there. Ben Simmons, who refused to shoot, and Kyrie Irving dealing with vaccination BS. And now in Phoenix, the Devin Booker-Bradley Beal move never made any sense. They should have kept Chris Paul. I actually think a Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant team could have worked. I just think Devin Booker-Bradley Beal's games are too redundant, and they don't have a bench. In my situation here, you're going to the East, which is a lot easier than the West. And for the most part, you're going to keep your bench guys.
yeah. I'd have to think about it more. I don't know. But let me throw this at you. Because I saw a report that said Kevin Durant wanted to go to the Knicks, but they're not interested.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to when I said the Knicks would say probably not. I think that the Knicks, and we're going to talk about this team in our next topic, I think the Knicks and the Cavs look at these Indiana Pacers and think, we're good. We don't need Kevin Durant. We don't need to make a move because nobody is afraid of the Indiana Pacers because nobody actually believes the Indiana Pacers can do what they did this postseason again. I'm not saying me or you don't believe it. I'm telling you by the actions of what NBA executives believe. They believe that this Indiana Pacer team is a good team who made a lucky run by making 5 shots at the buzzer by Tyrese Halliburton, and that it's not going to happen again. It's why Milwaukee is keeping Giannis, because they would generally feel like, oh, we improve our bench, we do a couple of things here or there, we can beat the Pacers, and we could be in the finals. Why do you think Orlando went out and got Desmond Bane, who we're about to talk about? Because they said, if we get one more shooter, hell, why couldn't we be the Indiana Pacer of next year?
Yeah. As a Cavs fan, what does worry me is like we couldn't handle the physicality of the Pacers. They just bullied us overall in that series.
But you know what executives will think? They'll think, oh, these I can tell you what Kobe Allman thinks, because Kobe Allman's a loyal guy. Oh, my guys are going to get tougher next year. It's just going to take one more year and then we'll get tougher, even though that's not the way in reality it works.
Yes.
I do think it's fascinating. The Knicks seemingly are going to hold pat with a new coach, and maybe he'll bring a Kenny Atkinson like move to the Knicks, and then it'll take him to the next level. I think Kevin Durant to New York would work very similarly to Kevin Durant to Indiana, but for the Knicks, as I've talked about previously, I would want to keep Cat and move up Bridges as opposed to trading Cat for Durant.
Yeah, and in terms of Kevin Durant, like his preferred destinations are Miami, Houston, or San Antonio. If I'm the Spurs, I like where I'm at right now. I've got Wembanyama. I like Castle alongside him. You got the number 2 overall pick. I would not make the move for Kevin Durant right now if I'm the Spurs. If I'm Houston, I would make the move if I'm the Rockets.
So Houston needs him more because Houston's in a better position to win right now. But I would argue if you're the Spurs, they're not giving up both Castle and the number 2 pick. They probably only have to give up Castle. So let's say you keep Chris Paul, you keep De'Aaron Fox, you have Wemby, you have Durant, you have the number 2 pick. That's a really good basketball team. I know out west it's very challenging, and to get through OKC is going to be hard. But if you get Durant, it makes your life a lot easier as opposed to going through a Durant with the Houston Rockets. And so that's why if I'm the Spurs, I actually think I make the move because I think Durant and Wemby is a pretty lethal combo myself.
I understand what you're saying, but I really like, as an outsider from what I saw, I really like the trio of Castle, De'Aaron Fox, and Wembanyama together. Plus, like I said, you're going to get a very good player in the number 2 overall pick.
Well, are we sure about that? How long is it going to take for this kid to develop? That's the issue I have. He could be amazing. He's not Cooper Flagg. If it was Cooper Flagg, if the Spurs got the number 1 pick, it'd be a completely different story.
Okay, I do see what you're saying, but it does sound like the Spurs are probably going to go with Ace Bailey out of Rutgers. That's
so everything I hear, he has star potential, but is it going to take 3 years?
That part I do question, like you are.
So here's the thing, right? If we think Ace Bailey is going to be a very good player, let's say he turns into Jalen Williams. Let's just give that example because it's taken Jalen Williams about a couple of years to get to where he was at last night. If he becomes Jalen Williams, or let's say for sake of argument, Ahmed Thompson, who we all think is going to be a star for Houston, but it's taken him now. This is going to be his 2nd year, potentially a 3rd year. If that's the case, if I'm on this timeline knowing I could get Kevin Durant in this West, I think I just bite the bullet and say screw it because I have more picks in my ammo anyway, and I just go get Durant.
Whereas if I'm the Miami Heat, I'm looking to get Durant because we just talked about it. The Eastern Conference, there's not a dominant team where you're like, oh, we got to get through them to get to the NBA Finals. It's not like in the West where you got Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Dallas, if they get all their stuff together, Houston, San Antonio, Lakers. You know, you have very good teams out in the Eastern Conference. I think Boston's going to be down a little bit because of Jason Tatum. But you've got Orlando on the rise, Indiana, Cleveland, New York. But there's not really a team, and Milwaukee, but there's not really a team there that scares you. So
here's the problem with Miami. Durant has to be the number 1. He has to be the leader because it's not Bam and it sure ain't Tyler Hero.
Here's my question for Miami. If you want to get Durant, do you have to give up either Tyler Hero or Bam Adebayo?
Well, if that's the case, there's no way they do the deal. I think the only way the deal makes sense is if you keep them both.
Can they make that work, though, for the Miami?
Well, it depends. Does Phoenix want to compete or does Phoenix just want draft picks? Like, if I have the Suns, the best deal that's out there, if they would do it, is Cat. Because he's on Devin Booker's timeline.
Yeah. from what I've heard, the Suns aren't really impressed with any of the offers Houston, San Antonio, or
because
Miami.
they think they're going to get a Desmond Bane type offer, and it's not going to be that because NBA trades are weird, and as we saw with the Luka trade, all things are not considered equal.
Yeah, and they're still kind of hoping Kevin Durant will reconsider and go, no, I do want to play with Anthony Edwards up in Minnesota.
That's the move that I think he should want to. I don't understand why he doesn't. He almost feels like it's an insult. It's like he'd be going to Golden State again, which I don't feel that way.
Right. And I forgot to include Minnesota when I was talking about some of the powers in the West. Oh, and Denver. Excuse me. Sorry, Jokic.
Well, speaking of trade, let's talk about the potential hypothetical scenario. Oh my God, I can't believe we're talking about this choke artist of a team again. Okay, Josh, our own Cleveland Cavaliers. You wanted to put it in the rundown. I'm okay with it because we potentially could make some moves. But as I had said here in the last topic when it pertains to Kevin Durant, and actually when it pertains to the NBA Finals, I think this group, the New York Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Detroit Pistons, and the Orlando Magic, those four teams, they are the teams that obviously either made the conference finals or couldn't get past Indiana. You could even put Milwaukee in there as well, if they keep you honest. They're looking at it going, the Celtics are not going to be as good next year, as you alluded to earlier, without Jason Tatum, who's probably likely going to miss all of next season. Boston will probably be a playoff team. They're not going to be the prohibitive favorite in the East. The Pacers, they may be good, but also, if you remember, they started this regular season off 10-15. They could lose Miles Turner, who would be a big free agent watch for them. We don't know how they're going to bounce back. Could they be like a Dallas Mavericks who were even struggling this year prior to the Luka trade in the East? So they look at it and they go, well, what move do we really need to make? Let's all just stay pat. Obviously, outside of Orlando, who needs more shooting, I'm talking about big moves where I think most of these teams, like Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade, you could trade them. I don't know what you're going to get for them, a bag of beans, but
right. I think part of the reason, let me just respond to that super quick and then I'll let you continue. I think part of the reason why the Cavs would want to trade one and or both is because they know Ty Jerome is going to want a bigger contract based off of what his production was at least during the season and the Miami series, because he fell off a cliff during the second round.
He did not play well. And just for people to understand, with the new NBA CBA, with the second apron, it's essentially a hard cap. So unless the Cavs free up salary in a significant way, they're not going to be able to they're not going to be able to keep the likes of a Ty Jerome or even a Sam Merrill. The move they have to make, and by the way, we're going to talk about Desmond Bane, the next topic, but when the Cavaliers got eliminated by the Indiana Pacers, if you remember on the championship ring show that we did following that, what move did I say the Cleveland Cavaliers should go out and make?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I think it was with a Western Conference team, if I'm not mistaken.
It was.
Oh boy. Refresh me.
It was Darius Garland for the guy the Orlando Magic just traded for, Desmond Bane. That was the move. That was the move I wanted to make. That was the move that I said, okay, you put Mitchell at the 1, Bane is your 2, you keep Jarrett Allen as your big, you've got Evan Mobley there, you've got DeAndre Hunter at that point as your starting small forward, I would think. That's a championship team. And now the Cavs, I am very fearful. Like I said, Kobe Allman is going to sit on his hands. They're going to go wadi-da-di-da. Now that Darius Garland has this toe injury, his trade value is way down. There's probably no way they can trade him. No good team is going to want Jarrett Allen's contract. So let's put that out there as well. So at this point, your best value, I'll be honest with you, is not even trading Isaac Okoro because he stinks. He can't shoot. Dean Wade's a nice rotational player, and I could live with or without him. The guy they need to see if they could get some sort of value for is Max Strus.
I agree. First of all, he should not be the starting small forward. No, thank you. But neither should Okoro. Okoro has not developed in the way I've wanted him to. So if we trade him, I would gladly do it in a heartbeat. Thank you very much.
I don't think there's any way we can get this player because on some nights he's really good, but I'm talking about this type of player. If you can't get a Desmond Bane type, like an Austin Reeves, somebody like that, somebody who's a bigger, taller guy who can play the 2 or the 3, who can also knock down threes and create his own shot. That is my biggest issue with this Cavs team is outside of Mitchell and Garland when he is out there, even though the 2 6'1" guards, you know how I feel about that, how that much bothers me. Those are the only 2 that can create their own shot because not even Evan Mobley really can create his own shot on a consistent basis.
Yeah, you need like a Tyrese Maxey, for example.
You need a bigger version of him.
Yes. Because obviously Philly's not going to trade Tyrese Maxey. I get it.
Would they for Garland? I mean, do you make the call?
I would maybe consider it, yeah. But
because he's 6'4", I believe.
I think so. I don't think the Sixers would do it though. But you never know. Orlando's obviously not going to trade Jalen Suggs. They think they've got something.
Exactly.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, so Maxey's smaller than I thought. He's only 6'2". So to be honest with you, I am looking at height here. I want a bigger guard or a bigger wing.
Okay. Well, we got that with DeAndre Hunter, which I'm all right with.
But we need a more – I like Hunter, but we need basically a better version of him.
Yeah. There's not really that type of guy out there. That's the problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Desmond Bane was the guy. Or Orlando got him.
Yeah. But if we trade Okoro and Wade, I would just shrug my shoulders and be like this, okay? And what?
Unless you somehow fleece a team, you know, we talk about like a Jalen Tyson, right? Do they give him a run maybe this season? I don't know. He showed some good minutes in the G League and kind of in blowout games this year, but, you know, it's November. It's Mickey Mouse regular season basketball. I don't care if the Cavs go 82-0 this year. Show me what they do in the postseason.
I agree. Because, like I said, they had the best record in the Eastern Conference. They had the Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year. Guess what? I still say this season was a complete and total failure for the Cavs. Sorry.
Well, again, though, here's the thing that the Cavs are probably saying to themselves. And again, we think as fans, it's a big if, but really, we don't really know what goes on inside the walls of the Cleveland Clinic courts here at practice. But if the Cavs think that they can get tougher, that's our only obstacle. Believe it or not, as much as I think the roster needs tweaking, we did win 66 games. We were, 2 games by the Thunder, who are run to be the NBA champion for the best record in basketball?
Yeah. And again, I said this earlier. You look at the Eastern Conference, there's not really that one team where you're like, oh my God, I'm so scared of them. Like,
no, the Eastern Conference is kind of like March Madness, where you do have your blue bloods, you do have your favorites, but would it surprise you if, number 5, Oregon, or I don't know, number 4, Texas Tech, won that region? No. It's kind of how I see the East right now.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, let's talk Desmond Bane. This was a great move by Orlando. I don't give a rip about the first-round picks. Oh, my God, they gave up 4 first-round picks. Yeah, all those picks are going to be in the 20s. They're not going to matter that much. Who cares?
Yeah, they gave up the 16th pick in this year.
Like whoop-de-doo. Yes, Giannis was the 13th pick. I think Kawhi Leonard was 14. Paul George was 13. Donovan Mitchell, I think, was 13 or 14. You can find players, but it's rare. It's like the second round. This guy, Desmond Bane, was a second rounder. Draymond Green, second rounder. Nikola Jokic, obviously, second rounder. There's not a lot else. You get like one good player every 5 years. So
wasn't Klay Thompson like the 11th overall pick or something?
Yeah, Klay was the 11th. I mean, it can happen. And this draft, as we talked about earlier, is deeper than most. But it's going to be very unlikely, I think, that Memphis is going to hit and find a superstar on one of these picks. And for the Orlando Magic, listen, remember 2 years ago when we came on this show losing our minds because JP Bickerstaff could not put away an Orlando Magic team that literally couldn't shoot. If the Magic could shoot, they would have beat us in that first-round playoff series because Pablo Banchero was the best player in that series. It was not Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, you had both the Wagner brothers, Franz and Mo, just kind of having their way with us.
Well, and then what I was going to say is this year, they fall apart a little bit physically. But if you watch that Boston series, it was like, and this is what Orlando was saying, man, if we had shooting, we could have beat Boston. Like, they were in those games, and Banchero, he may have not been the best player in that series. It was Tatum, but Banchero was like, finally getting healthy again. And it was like, okay, we get a full off season. We get a full chance with this unit to grow. Like, look out. This Magic team, I think could be, I talked about the Indiana Pacers. I don't know if they can get to the finals or not, but could they be what the Cavs were maybe last year, jumping from like a 7-8 seed to a 3-4 seed next year? I think they could be.
Yeah, I mean, they were a 5 seed when they played us 2 years ago.
Yeah, and they're still young, and they got everybody under contract. And now you got Jalen Suggs, who is getting better as a shooter and a great defender. They got Desmond Bane, who's a great defender. Banchero, who can obviously score and is a great defender. And both Wagners. Now, I do think they need to add like one more free-point shooter out of the wing. Maybe Jonathan Isaac comes back healthy. Maybe that's your addition. Right? I think they probably need to add a scoring guard off the bench, a TJ McConnell type player. But Orlando's getting there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And I think part of the reason they gave up 4 first-round picks was not just to get Desmond Bane. It was also to get Kentavious Caldwell-Pope off of their books because I get it. He was a key part of 2 championship teams with the Denver Nuggets and the LA Lakers in the bubble, but he did not turn into what the Magic thought he was going to be this season.
No, he thought he was going to be what Desmond Bane they think is going to be.
Yeah. And
I do have to give credit to the Orlando Magic front office because they made that Pope move this offseason, and they said, this is not working. We got to get off it. They are being proactive. They are being aggressive. As much as I like Kobe Allman, I think he's built a nice roster here in Cleveland. That's what he hasn't done.
I agree with you. But here's my thing with the Orlando Magic. Think about this. They had Shaq, and they let him go. They had Dwight Howard, let him go. Are they going to do that with Paolo Banchero? You've got a centerpiece in him. He can be that main guy. Are the Magic going to actually go against their morals or whatever word you want to use and actually keep him in Orlando? Because again, Shaq went to the Lakers. Guess what? Dwight Howard went to the Lakers. Are you going to be able to keep Paolo Banchero? Or are you going to let him go and potentially end up in the purple and gold? You know what I mean?
That's a good point. And let's switch gears real quick. Let's talk about the Grizzlies side of things. This move, I know there's rumors out there that they're going to still try to contend, and, we'll see about that. I know they got 4 first-round picks now, but moving off probably your second or third best player, obviously outside of Ja and Jared Jackson, I think that they have admitted they're kind of in like a Pelican space, like how they are with Zion Williamson, where it's like we have this good player who, if he's healthy, we can be a 3 seed potentially in the Western Conference regular season. We're not really championship contenders. I do wonder, right? Is Memphis going to hold on to those picks? Do they try now with those picks and up the ante and try to make a big deal for Kevin Durant? Or do they trade John Moran and do they start over?
Yeah, from what I've heard, they don't want to trade John Morant or Jaren Jackson for that matter. But you look at Memphis, even when they were fully healthy and they were the 2 seed, I didn't look at them and go, oh, they're a legitimate champion.
No, I picked Golden State in that series.
Even when they went against the Lakers, I think it was in a first-round series too. I was like, nah, I'm picking the Lakers to win that series.
You're right. Golden State faced Sacramento, right? Memphis faced the Lakers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And didn't Golden State end up facing Memphis in the second round?
No, they faced the Lakers.
Okay. Because I know there was a playoff series where the Grizzlies played the Warriors.
There was. That might have been the year before. Because the year before that, remember Memphis beat them in that play-in tournament?
I'm talking about in a legitimate playoff series. Memphis had home court against the Warriors.
I want to say it was 2022 then.
Because, hold on, now I want to look this up.
Yeah, I believe it was the year that Golden State won the title.
Okay.
Yes, it was 2022. It was the year Golden State won the title. It was the second round.
Okay, cool. Was that the year Memphis eliminated the Lakers in the first round then?
Memphis, let me see. Who, because Golden State beat Denver. Let me see that 2022 NBA standings and see the West. No, the Lakers didn't even make the playoffs that year.
Okay. Huh. Because I know there was a year. Okay, it was the 2022 West semifinals. Let's see. They beat them in 2015 and then 2022, it looks like. So
Memphis in the first round beat Minnesota. Boy, that was a forgettable series. I don't remember that at all.
I got to go use the restroom super quick. I will be right back.
Okay, so with that, I guess, we'll just keep talking about more of this Desmond Bane situation here in the East. And, again, with Memphis, it's hard, obviously, right? Because you've got New Orleans, who knows how good they're going to be, whether they bring back their guys with Zion Williamson or not. You obviously have the champs in Oklahoma City. You have Denver, Nikola Jokic. You have Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and the Clippers. You have Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. You have LeBron and Luka in LA. It's a lot of competition. And, maybe is there a team out there? Houston obviously has got their bigs. Would the Clippers try to make a run at a Jaren Jackson? Maybe do they try to take a shot at a John Moran and give Kawhi Leonard almost essentially a true point guard? I don't know.
I heard what you were saying. I would think it would make more sense if the Clippers tried to do a deal for Jaren Jackson and kind of do that double big lineup. And then you have Kawhi at the 3 and James
Harden.
James Harden at the 2. I just don't know what you would do at the point guard position in that.
No, Harden would be your point, I would think. Because he's turned into a point. He's turned into a point shooting guard, if you will.
Okay.
He's passing more than scoring at this point.
So you would need somebody for your 2 then.
Which, could still be Nicholas Batum.
Or Norman Powell. Yeah. Trade Paul. No. Trade Paul George for Darius Garland. No, thank you.
No, I disagree with that. I think Paul George I would have won that trade. I proposed that trade a couple years ago. I think Paul George fell off a cliff while he was in Philly.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that deal. No way.
Shall we talk about the woman who is now the best basketball player in the state of Indiana? And no, it is not Tyrese Halliburton. It is this girl. It is the Tiger Woods of the WNBA, the person who single-handedly gets anybody to a television to watch so she can shoot 3 straight logo threes in a row, the person who is the sole reason why this game was viewed as a top 3 WNBA game of all time on the ABC network. Caitlin Clark returned, and her impact was immediate.
Yeah, because the Indiana Fever knocked off not only the reigning defending undisputed WNBA champion New York Liberty, but they were also knocked from the realm of undefeated teams, because New York came into that game 9-0, sitting atop the standings in all of the WNBA. Caitlin Clark comes back. She hits 7 3-pointers. I believe scored like 32 points or something like that. And the Indiana Fever defeat the New York Liberty. I watched the game. And it was fantastic to watch. I know we haven't talked about the WNBA as much. Viewership has been down a little bit.
Because Caitlin hasn't played in 2 weeks. I mean,
yes.
What are we talking about, Josh? Ticket prices for an Indiana Fever game went from the get-in being what? Close to $200 to literally $6. Think about that.
Check this out. Because of the Caitlin Clark effect, the Chicago Sky moved one of their home games against the Indiana Fever into the Chicago Bulls arena, but the United Center. But unfortunately, Caitlin was out for that game. But for this weekend's game between the Fever and the Las Vegas Aces, they are playing that game at T-Mobile Arena, where the Vegas Golden Knights play, where UFC holds all their big pay-per-views. Like, that is like one of the biggest compliments.
It's a 15,000 seat arena, which will easily be sold out by Caitlin Clark, because as I mentioned at the top of this program, and no, by the way, I saw a comment in there, it was not 20 million people watching the game. Many people were duped by this parody tweet from the Indiana Fever that it was 20 million people, but it was 2.3 million people, which was the 3rd highest viewed WNBA game on ABC ever, as it says here in our topic bar. But as I mentioned at the top of this topic, Caitlin Clark is Tiger Woods. I mean, that's what she is. Tiger Woods got people to watch golf. It got people like me to watch golf. Don't care about golf. Don't even know the rules about golf. You know what I want to do? I want to watch Tiger Woods hit a damn ball off a tee, because I know there's a chance to win this history. I don't even think about the WNBA unless I hear, oh my God, this girl who plays for the Indiana Fever, who can shoot logo threes, is out here playing for the WNBA. And then you turn on the TV and you feel like you've watched the best moment of sports all weekend, was watching Caitlin Clark this weekend. And again, players like Angel Reese and others who are sort of against or don't like Caitlin Clark, have said, that she's a white girl or whatever they have said about this woman, they should get down on their hands and knees and bend to the queen. Because the only reason why you are flying better, the only reason why you have a deal with Ion Television, the only reason why you have better hotel accommodations, the only reason why people knew about your college basketball NCAA March Madness tournament when she was in college is because of this woman. Like, I'm sorry, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's why in the 2024 national championship between Iowa and South Carolina got higher viewership than UConn versus Purdue. Like, it's as simple as that.
I don't know the numbers for sure. We're going to talk about this in a little while, but I'd be curious to see how this number would rank against a Stanley Cup final game.
I don't know. That's a good question, and I don't have an answer for you on that.
because I would think now again, TNT, maybe it's a Stanley Cup final, it has a partner name, maybe it gets like $4 million, but maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But I will also say this, that Caitlin Clark is just, I think that she is more popular than maybe all but 7 NBA players. I said this today on my show, Josh. If you did a draft, hypothetically, we're not talking strength or anything like that. We're just going out of the blacktop. We're playing one-on-one. How many picks do we go if you include all NBA players and Caitlin Clark until Caitlin Clark is picked?
Oh. Probably.
I got to 8.
I would say no more than 10 at max.
So I got Jokic, Giannis, SGA, Luka, LeBron, Steph. That's 6.
Okay.
Then I think you get into a real debate.
Yeah. I would go SGA first. That's just me.
I'm not saying in order. I'm saying those are the 6 players I definitively would take over Caitlin Clark. I think Caitlin's probably 7.
It's interesting that you did not include Ant Edwards in there.
Okay, I forgot about Ant. So I would take Ant because of the star power, because of his personality. I would take him 7. I think it would have been over Caitlin because of Caitlin's play style is a little more redundant to Steph, right?
Yeah.
But I think Caitlin's probably 8. And by the way, you know how much I hate NBA All-Star Weekend. I know that she didn't want to do it, but instead of the 3-point contest, just put Steph versus Caitlin Clark in a 3-point contest on All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, you and I talked about it. I loved it when they did Steph versus Sabrina. That was my favorite part of All-Star Weekend when they did it. Jonquel Jones under 10 rebounds tonight. I don't even know if she's coming back for New York tonight because she's been out the last couple games for the Liberty. She was out for the game on Sunday against Indiana. So I'd have to see if she's coming back tonight against the Atlanta Dream.
Well, that's your giveaway odds of the night. Hopefully we get sponsored by FanDuel here soon. Let's go to an NFL topic, though, Josh, because minicamp, mandatory version of it is over. Now we're in the home stretch, about 6 weeks away from training camp, and the Browns have a 5th-round pick on their roster, 2 former first-round picks on their roster, and Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, and a guy who they drafted in the 3rd round who's about as tall as me and can barely see over his offensive line. So there's 2 different answers to this, right? One of them is who will start week 1. The other is who should start week 1. We're going to answer the topic on the topic bar, which is who should start week 1. Before I do that, I'm going to tell you who will start week 1 because it's a different answer. The who will start week 1, well, in my opinion, unless there is a miracle change, will be the ageless wonder Joe Flacco at 40 years old, who I think a lot of people are forgetting, actually, in my opinion, did not play that great when he was with the Browns a couple years ago, threw almost as many interceptions as Deshaun Watson did during his time when he was on the field last year. It's just Joe Flacco was very liked in the locker room, and the defense played very well at that time, and he matched very well with the Kevin Stefanski system. Who should start week 1 is a different answer because it's definitely not Dylan Gabriel. I mean, if I was a coach, if they're not going to do it, I would cut Dylan Gabriel. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback. I'm on record. I don't believe he's an NFL quarterback. Kenny Pickett, I think, is a backup in this league. He obviously backed up for your reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles this past season. He's not going to start week 1, though. Who should start week 1? Who will give this town some energy? Who will give this town some boost? A town where the Cleveland Cavaliers are an absolute disgrace. They're sissies. They can't be tough with anybody. The Cleveland Guardians are falling down a tube right now. Can't win a ball game to save their lives. It should be the guy that was drafted in the 5th round, Shedeur Sanders. I know that me and Fitz and you disagree on Shador. I know Fitz, our Voted Life colleague, is very adamant and against Shador, and he was not in favor of drafting him in the first round. And he thought a second or third round, you could take a flyer on him. I thought Shador was the second best quarterback in this draft behind Cam Ward. And I think he's absolutely, positively right now, without taking a snap, the best quarterback on the Browns roster.
So, I know I'm in the minority on this, but I do not like Joe Flacco. I'm sorry. I will not forgive and forget what he did with the Baltimore Ravens, beating us at almost every time. I don't care what others say. I'm going to hold my serve on that. Unless Joe Flacco wins us a Super Bowl, then I'll change my tune. But
if Joe Flacco this year wins the Browns a Super Bowl, I will do whatever you want. I will buy you whatever you want.
don't worry, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to hold you to that because at best, the Browns are going to go 6-11.
That's optimistic. But by the way, that's if Flacco starts all 17 games. I told you this last week. I am dead serious about this. If Shador Sanders comes in, this whole Browns franchise and this organization could turn around like that. If Shador Sanders comes in and makes an impact the way I think Cam Ward could be in Tennessee, the Browns could go from, oh my God, this team is barely going to win 3 games to, wait a minute, this team's a playoff team. That's how much I actually believe Shador Sanders could change this team around.
I could see him theoretically becoming the starting quarterback after the bye week and coming in and playing at the New York Jets in week 10.
See, that's where I disagree with you because here's what I think. If Flacco starts the season, personally, and I know you're going to hate to hear this, Josh, I think he's going to start week 7 against the Dolphins. And the reason why I say that is because, 1, it's a home game. And number 2, because the Browns will be 0-6 by then.
Okay. So you think they lose to the Bengals, Ravens, Packers, Lions, at Vikings, and Steelers?
Yes. If Flacco starts, yes. If Shador starts, you're probably 3-3.
Interesting. I could see them beating the Bengals. We've had success against the Bengals here in Cleveland.
Like, week 1 is weird. Yeah, I could. But part of me is thinking, I know the Bengals got contract disputes. Here we go again. Whatever, Cincinnati. It's like my thought process is at some point the Bengals are going to get off to a good start.
For God's sakes, they lost week 1 against the Patriots last season.
But that's why I think this year they're going to look at it and they're going to say, guys, that loss technically is the reason why we didn't make the playoffs. And this is what we always say in football, right? This is why I love football. This is why I love the fact that it's only 17 games. This is why I keep telling you that the NBA needs to cut regular season games and Major League Baseball needs to cut regular season games because every game matters. We always say, oh, it's week 1. They'll be fine. It's a fluke. And for some teams, that's true. Like my Eagles started 2-2, and then they went on their run after their bye week. But for other teams like Cincinnati, week 1 is life or death.
Yeah. By the way, I was not expecting the Browns to face Cincinnati in week 1. I actually predicted them to be on the road in Gillette Stadium in Foxborough facing the New England Patriots, and then I had them playing their home opener in week 2 against Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans.
I like the fact they put Ward versus the Browns, though, later in the year because I think that Shador's not going to start the season. And you could get number 1 pick versus who many people thought at the time was going to be the number 2 pick, like you did.
Yes. And again, the reason I thought the Browns would do that with the number 2 pick is because, again, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, or shame on you. However the saying goes, I don't care. The Browns drafted Johnny Manziel. They drafted Baker Mayfield. They have a history of drafting quarterbacks like Shador Sanders. Again, I get that Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield had different off-the-field issues than Shador. I get it. But I put all three of them into the same category nonetheless. Hopefully you get what I mean there.
Yes. So, real quick, back to this quarterback thing. I don't know why this coaching staff loves Dylan Gabriel so much because he literally does not fit the mold of a Kevin Stefanski quarterback. This dude in minicamp, when they're 7-on-7, not even tackling people, was 7 of 18 one day. How do you go 7 for 18 at minicamp? And once you get 11 passes, ban it down.
It's so interesting though, because go back and watch the draft reactions in the Browns.
Oh, I know.
Like, you watch when they drafted Dylan Gabriel, everybody's like, yay! We got our guy. And then when they drafted Shador, it's like,
I kept telling you people, you guys thought Baker Mayfield was too small. What do you think Dylan Gabriel is?
yeah, but just
And by the way, he's a lefty. How is that gonna work? I don't know. That's why I'm not the biggest fan of Tua. I don't know if you know this on me or not. I do not like lefty quarterbacks. I don't think lefty quarterbacks work in the NFL. It's the reverse of the arm movement, the way the ball comes out of their hands. Receivers are not used to it. I don't think it works.
If the Browns start Joe Flacco, which I agree with you, I think they will. If they then flip to Dylan Gabriel, that's a complete change in offense because you're going from a righty who is basically a statue to a lefty who I understand your criticism of him, but he has shown that he is not a true mobile quarterback, but I think Dylan Gabriel has some athleticism.
In college, where the line's a little bit shorter, typically on average, than the NFL offensive line. The other thing is, this is what I'm struggling with. How are they going to evenly divide this competition? Like, clearly, they're going to have to use some of the preseason games. I mean, the preseason games are going to be the most interesting Browns preseason games in a decade. But, like, is Shador going to get the fourth team one week and then the first team the next week? Like, how are you going to judge? I would almost think that you go in there and saying, okay, it's going to be Flacco as the starter. Don't give him any reps. And basically rotate Pickett, Shador, and Dylan Gabriel for 3 preseason games. One gets an opportunity every game to start, and that's how you decide it.
Yeah, the Browns have, like every team, they have 3 preseason games. Well, not like every team, because the Chargers and
the Lions, I think, right?
Chargers and Lions, I think, have 4 because they're playing in the Hall of Fame game.
The Browns really needed 4 this year. The other thing is they spent all this capital, a 3rd-round pick on Dylan Gabriel. That's a 3rd-round pick in the NFL is not like a 2nd-round pick in the NBA. It's valuable capital. So I don't see them getting rid of Dylan Gabriel. So the only way that they are going to not carry 4 quarterbacks basically is if they cut Shador Sanders, which I don't see, or B, trade Kenny Pickett and pray a quarterback goes down. That's what they're waiting for. Pray a team like the Saints want to give a 4th-round pick for Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. Which, the Saints are a total mess. Who knows what's going to happen with them? Good God.
Exactly. All right, take us home. Talking about the Stanley Cup final. Now, it is 3-2 right now, the Florida Panthers. I believe Game 6 is going to take place, am I correct, in Florida tonight?
Yes. It is tonight at 8:30, or it's at 8 o'clock, I believe. Let me double check on that. I want to give you the right information.
Now, I do know this because I did look this up because I can't believe nobody is actually talking about this anywhere. Josh, I don't even know if you know this. In the history of the Stanley Cup final, there has not been a back-to-back matchup of 2 teams where both series have gone to a Game 7.
So, okay. This is the first repeat Stanley Cup final since the Detroit Red Wings and Pittsburgh Penguins did it back in 2008, 2009. In 2008, the Red Wings won that series in 6 games, with Game 6 being in Pittsburgh. And then in 2009, the Penguins came back and won that series in 7 games, with Game 7 being in Detroit. We haven't had a repeat Stanley Cup champion since the Tampa Bay Lightning did it in 2020 when they won against the Dallas Stars in the bubble, and then they won in 2021 in a really bizarre Stanley Cup final where they played the Montreal Canadiens, who aren't even in the Western Conference. They're in the East. In fact, Montreal is in the same division as the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Wait, why was that a Stanley Cup?
It was because it was just a really bizarre playoff format.
It was like post-COVID. They didn't play as many games, I would guess, and they changed the playoff format for 1 year.
Like Montreal played Vegas in like the semifinals. It was really weird. But here's even crazier. The last 5 Stanley Cups, going all the way back to 2020, have either included the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Florida Panthers.
Hot weather Florida teams good at hockey.
Yeah, I know. So much so that both the Winter Classic and the Stadium Series are both going to be in Florida next season.
Huh?
I know, right? The Winter Classic is going to be the New York Rangers against the Tampa Bay or against the Florida Panthers.
How are they going to do that? Are they going to use artificial ice?
I don't know. And then they're going to do the Boston Bruins against the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stadium Series. Don't ask me how it's going to work. I don't know.
Is that going to be at Raymond James?
Yes.
Okay. That's a new one.
Here's the funnier part. They're doing the Winter Classic at the Marlins Stadium.
Well, at least those fans of that stadium will see more action than they will in the last decade down there at the Marlins Stadium.
Yes, but in the last game up in Edmonton, Florida won that game pretty handily, which was shocking because in Game 4 down in Florida, Edmonton got down 3-0. They made a goalie change.
Yeah, I thought it was over. Like, I was checking highlights. I'll be honest with you. I was back and forth with it. I turned it off. I looked at my phone. I said, wait, what? Edmonton won?
Yeah. And so I thought, okay, Edmonton coming back home. Series is tied 2-2. They're going to come out flying. They're going to win and put all the pressure on Florida in Game 6. Nope. Edmonton kind of came out flat as a pancake. Brad Marchand scored 2 goals, and Florida's now 1 win away from being the first, like I said, they're 1 win away from being the first repeat Stanley Cup champion since the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2020 and 2021. If they win it tonight, I would think the Conn Smythe would go to Sam Bennett. He has played phenomenally, not just in the Stanley Cup final, but throughout all the playoffs. Interestingly, last season, even though Florida won the Stanley Cup, the Conn Smythe went to Connor McDavid of the Edmonton.
Right, of Edmonton. And that's the Stanley Cup MVP, correct?
Yes, but for the whole playoffs, not just for the Stanley Cup.
I forgot about that. That is so weird to me.
Yeah, it's not like with the NBA Finals where you and I agree SGA will win Finals MVP once the Thunder wrap it up.
Here's a question. Does the award have to go to someone that's playing in the finals?
Yeah, it generally does. I haven't seen a case where it goes to a player that's been eliminated earlier.
But they award it just for the whole playoffs?
As far as I know, yes.
I think that okay, well, I mean, it's a trophy. It's on your resume, but the wording of that's just weird.
I know. You know what else is weird? The fact that WWE saw, hey, AEW's running a show in Mexico this Wednesday. What are we going to do? Oh, I know. Let's also run a show in Mexico. Come on, dude. Oh, wait. I'm not stopping there. Because WWE is running Saturday night's main event, the same damn day as
All in.
All In. And at All In, we're getting Mercedes Moné versus Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship. We're getting Hangman Adam Page versus Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. We're getting Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega for the newly minted Unified Championship. And WWE goes, what match should we do? Oh, I know. Goldberg versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. Yay! Really, WWE? Like, what you expect? I'm sorry, I'm not calling him Goldberg. You expect Oldberg versus Gunther to attract fans away from Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada or Hangman versus Jon Moxley? No.
Well, technically, I don't think they're going head to head. I think All In will be over before Saturday night's main event because All In starts at 3, right?
Yeah, but knowing AEW, the pay-per-view is going to end up going 4 or 5 hours.
Well, yeah, it'll go to about 8, but I don't think that they're going to go a full 5 hours. I mean, are they really that crazy? Have they seen the people tune out after the last 2 weeks of Dynamite because nobody wants to watch a 4-hour wrestling program on a Wednesday night?
I mean, they've been doing really well. The shows have been phenomenal.
They have, but why do you think WWE moved WrestleMania to 2 nights? Why do you think they're moving SummerSlam to 2 nights? And why do you think the Royal Rumble is going to be 2 nights? It's not just to make more money. It's also because the fans, if you remember WrestleMania 35, they were falling asleep. And I don't care if AEW puts on the greatest show since sliced bread. You've been there 4 or 5 hours, even if you're at a football game, a basketball game, baseball game, 3.5 hours, you're ready to go home.
Yeah, generally AEW splits Dynamite and Collision. They're like normally Dynamite runs on Wednesday and Collision runs on Saturday. But I think it's because of the Stanley Cup final being on TNT. They've had to move Collision to Wednesdays.
Yeah, I don't understand Warner. I think it's very strange. Well, they could just put AEW on TBS or they could put it on True TV. Like, they have options, and instead they're like, no, we're just going to do a 4-hour programming block. Mostly because it's cheap programming. That's what I said to the benefit to AEW is it is cheap programming. That is a sport. And that's the only thing people are watching nowadays is for linear television is sports.
Yes. And my other big issue is WWE, like, they're running a Mexico show after AEW, but WWE is going to be closely paying attention to Wednesday's show in Mexico, and they're going to be like, oh, we can take that person for our AAA promotion. We can take that person for our AAA promotion. And you tell me WWE doesn't view AEW as a rival. Come on. Why do you think they took Ethan Page, the Lucha Brothers, Ricky Starks, Mariah May, who has now become Blake Monroe?
You know what? I want to see Tony fight back. Can Tony fight back?
Like, come on.
Is it a tweeting all day? Fight back, Tony. Do something about it.
I mean,
when WWE runs SummerSlam, do something with AEW.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. If Tony takes the competition seriously, he should fight back. Because that's what AEW was built on. We are the complete opposite of WWE. And, it's been a lot of back and forth, but I don't think the two companies now could never be as different as they are currently today.
Yeah, I agree. And I have gotten a little bit back into WWE. I've watched a couple episodes.
Wait, hold on. I do want to remind our viewers, after WrestleMania 41, what you said live on this show.
I did. You're right. I did.
SmackDown. You were boycotting Raw. You were unfollowing everything on Twitter/X.
I know. I did go and watch Money in the Bank at a friend's house, and I'm like, okay. And in the recent weeks, I'm like, okay, I've heard some better things about WWE. Let me try again. And all I've seen on Monday Night Raw, by the way, best wishes to Liv Morgan.
Absolutely. That was horrific.
Yeah, which that was just on like a normal fall. It didn't look like anything.
No, yeah. No, I agree.
And I was kind of interested in her developing program with Nikki Bella, but like all I see with Raw in basically every match is distraction, interference. Like, only reserve that for Seth Rollins' group. Like, let him be the one that comes in.
I will say that has been more of a Triple H thing than a Vince thing. Like, that has been the pattern of Triple H's booking. But from what I heard from people, again, I never used to watch the Black and Gold era of NXT. It sounds like that he would book that way in NXT too. Like, that's his calling card, is interference.
And it's kind of frustrating because it's like, now I just expect it with every match. Like, nope, this match isn't going to end clean.
Well, I think one of the issues is everybody's in a faction, right? Almost theoretically, or has some sort of budding relationship. So it's like there almost is going to be interference because somebody's trying to save their buddy, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. And here's the other thing that I have an issue with. Like, you look at the tag team division on SmackDown. You got all these teams. You got Motor City Machine Guns. You got Street Profits. You got Johnny Gargano and
DIY. You've got you got the Wyatt Six now coming back. You got Pretty Deadly.
Bingo. And then you look at Raw tag team division. There's nothing.
Yeah, I know. And I said it at the time, they should have never disbanded the Undisputed Tag Team titles. I thought splitting up the tag team titles by brand is a bad thing. I think WWE has fallen into the AEW trap of we have too many titles.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And I told you last week, the AAA thing reminds me of AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling. The Worlds Collide thing, I think the whole thing is stupid. A casual fan like me does not give a rip about Lucha Libre AAA. Care about Rey Mysterio. I think Penta's awesome, but I don't care about the whole Lucha Libre promotion. I could care less. Two shits about.
Yeah, and then my other thing is like for me anyway, the most interesting part of Monday Night Raw is everything with the Women's Intercontinental Championship. You and I were talking about this last week. Like, the match I was most interested in going into Money in the Bank was Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria for that title, because I thought that has been and continues to be, because I don't think Lyra's just going to vanish from it, the best story on Monday Night Raw. I'm loving that Bayley's now in the mix, and it feels like it's going in a triple threat direction. I'm loving that story. I'll give the Seth Rollins stuff some time. It's not quite working for me. But I do love the Naomi story over on SmackDown. So at least for me, the women's stories are more interesting than what's happening with Sami Zayn and Jey Uso and Seth Rollins. And trust me, I get Cena and Punk, and it's good, but for me, it's not like everything with Becky, Lyra, Bayley, and
I don't know if you listen to Jim Cornette at all, but Brian Last, his co-host on that show, was saying the same thing you were saying of the women's division. Really quickly before we get out of here, I'm going to defend Raw quickly, not so much SmackDown, because I agree with you. SmackDown's not been a very good show outside of the Naomi thing as of late. But I'm going to defend the whole Rollins, even the Gunther, Jey Uso, Sammy, everybody involved. It does connect from the start of the show to the end of the show. And everything does feel like it has a story, and it's moving throughout the show. And you are going to get this payoff now where you do get Cody Rhodes versus Jey Uso. I think we are going to get Cody versus Randy Orton in the King of the Ring finals, and not the direction we both thought. Okay, you don't. Are you still sticking with Sami Zayn then?
Here's what I think is going to happen. Sami Zayn is going to win the tournament. he will challenge Gunther for the title at SummerSlam. Sammy beats Gunther, and that's when Seth Rollins cashes in. And because remember, we had all those promos between Seth and Sammy. I think that's what it's leading to, is Sammy wins the title from Gunther like he did at WrestleMania with the Intercontinental. And then Seth comes out, ruins the moment by cashing in. And then I think they will build back up to that story at WrestleMania.
I was with you on that. And I think that still could be a possibility until Cody has now recently gotten involved in Seth Rollins' business. Now I think it's going to be Cody the one winning King of the Ring. I still think Cody takes the title of Cena, but I actually think Rollins cashes in on Cody right after SummerSlam. Because that will be – Rollins has never beaten Cody Rhodes. We know that in storyline. Well, now he would and win the world title from him.
Yeah, which we've talked about this. Cody was an okay WWE champion, not as good as I thought he was going to be.
He's so much better as a babyface chasing. This is the Cody I like. The more aggressive Cody, the no bullshit Cody. Not the, hey guys, what do you want to talk about? I need to finish my story. This is the Cody that I like. That's why I was in favor of turning Cody heel. I thought that was the direction that they were going to go once CM Punk did that talking to him. I thought Cody was going to go into this deep depression, and maybe he still does after Seth Rollins curb stomps his head in at SummerSlam. But that's what I'm talking about is I can see both of their scenarios. I can see yours totally, but I can also see mine, which is why I am fascinated by the direction because I don't know which way it's going.
Yeah, which like I said, it's not that I disliked the Seth Rollins stuff, but for me, I'm just loving the Intercontinental stuff with Becky, Lyra, and Bayley, and I find the Naomi stuff fascinating. I told you when she went heel and has this new caution gimmick, she needs to take this all the way to the World Championship. I told you.
You were absolutely right on that. All right, guys. We're going to wrap it up for tonight. This has been Championship Rings on June 17th. We'll be back on June 24th going over the results of the NBA Finals, the NHL Finals, and everything in between in sports. For Brandon Lewis, the host of Brandon's World, for Josh Unger, the host of the Sports Room Talk Show. We'll see you next Tuesday, and peace.
I still can't believe Rafael Devers got traded to the San Francisco Giants.
Talk about that next week.